Jai Gurudev. Today we comment from the Bhagavad-gītā, Canto 11, Chapter 20, Verse 19. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Shakshurum Meritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham Daryamanam Mano Yarhim Brahmyanashvanaya Stitam Atandrito Nurodena Margenatma Vasham Nayet. Which means, whenever the mind being concentrated on the spiritual path is suddenly deviated from its spiritual state, one should carefully bring it under the control of the self by following the prescribed means. Although one is seriously engaged in the spiritual path and engaging the mind in our sadhana, the mind is so flickering that it may suddenly be deviated from its spiritual position, because the mind creates desire. And sometimes on the way to our spiritual practices, the mind diverts us to another direction, for instance, a weakness of us. So the Bhagavad-gītā says one should then carefully bring the mind back under the control of the self. What are these prescribed means to bring the mind under the control of the self? Well, it is stated in the Bhagavad-gītā that if one is too austere or too sensuous, one cannot control the mind. Sometimes one may bring the mind under the control by allowing the material senses limited satisfaction. How much importance do we give to our thought and our doubts? Doubts, negative thoughts, and unwanted desires may arise inside of our mind, but do we entertain it? This is a question. If we entertain it, it will become big, like a big monster that will suffocate us. Then we will never be free. But if our thought, the negative thoughts, the doubts and unwanted desires awake in our mind, we should ask ourselves, what do I want? What do I want to achieve with this thought? Once Krishna and Arjuna were walking, and they were walking inside the forest, and it reached night. So Krishna and Arjuna had to stay in the forest to sleep. And Krishna said to Arjuna, listen, when I sleep, you keep guard. When you sleep, I will keep guard. So Arjuna said, okay, fine, and Krishna went to sleep. As they were sleeping, a big demon came out of the forest. So the demon roared. Arjuna got so scared. So what he did, the demon became huge in size. And 3 times he did it, and it was finally a huge monster. And the 3rd time, Arjuna fainted. And when Arjuna fainted, Krishna woke up and thought that Arjuna fell asleep. And Krishna was keeping guard. The demon again came. This huge demon arrived, and when Krishna looked at him, he asked him, what do you want? So again, another time arrived, and Krishna asked him, what do you want? And each time the demon was reducing in size. And the 3rd time it was so small that Krishna took it in his dhoti. He was small like this. So he put it in his dhoti, tied a knot, and finished. So the next day in the morning, Arjuna wake up and say, oh Krishna, you don't know what a huge demon came during the night. Listening to the story, Krishna took out the demon out of his pocket and said, is this the demon you are talking about? Yes, said Arjuna, but how come he became so small? And Krishna said, well, listen, how much importance you give to it, to anything, then it becomes that big. It's the same with our doubts, our desires, and our negative thoughts. We should not give any importance to it. Don't feel guilty to have these negative thoughts. This is not you. That's our mind. This desire that sometimes we have come from samskara. It means from the habits that we had in previous life. Whenever there is a doubt, whenever there is a negative thought, whenever there is an unwanted desire, how much we entertain it, then it will become big. But if at this precise moment we perceive this thought, we dismantle it, we disarm it, then it will leave us. If we ask ourselves, what do I want? What I want with this thought and the consequences that are attached to it, then if we disarm it, it will leave us. Once there was a monk who lived first in the world. He was a businessman, but looking at life, he realized that it don't mean anything. There is no meaning in this life, and he thought, I want to make a meaning in my life. He let go of the world outside. He retired to a monastery, and so after years and years of penance, he became enlightened. And when you become enlightened, everybody knows about it because you start glowing. So people started coming to him to have advices. Thousands of people would come and would ask him for advice. He was giving also satsang in the morning, but first he had one discipline. He would go firstly in meditation, and after the meditation, then he would tell what he needs for the breakfast and what he wanted to eat and to drink, and he would never give his satsang, his talk, before he had eating and drinking his meal in the morning. After the meditation, he would have a good breakfast, and he would give his discourses, and everybody would be happy. It was like that every day. And many people would come. They would sit and wait that he begins his satsang. One day, the monk came out of his meditation, and he said, bring me some brandy. Everybody was shocked. This guy is completely detached from the world. For years he had not drink any alcohol, and suddenly he asked for brandy. So everybody was wondering. They were waiting. For them, it was not about the brandy or what he was eating or drinking, but they wanted to hear the discourse. They wanted to hear what he wants to say to them. So somebody brought the brandy, and the monk sat with his hand like this on the table. And the brandy was poured inside the glass. But nothing happened. The monk was looking at the brandy, and this went like hours. People started becoming impatient. When should he drink his brandy? When will he begin to talk? And finally, one person approached the monk and said, Master, please, could you drink your brandy so that we can get the discourse? And the master said, look, what I am doing now, what I am giving you right now is the most precious advice. You have to understand what I am doing. When I was in the world, I had many samskaras with me. They were attached, hanging upon me. These samskaras, if you don't control it, they will control you. I have mastered everything, but yet that desire sometimes awakes itself inside of me, inside of my mind. So when that desire awakes, either you go in it and do the action or not. This is your choice. And here, this is my choice. I have the desire to drink brandy, but without the hand, the brandy will never go inside my mouth. So that's why I control my sense of touch. I said to my hand, you don't move from here. And that's it. You see, to control the mind, you have first to control the senses. And Bhagavan Krishna said, it is not an easy thing to control the mind, but you have control over your senses. If you control your senses, this is the first step. If you control what you are eating, what you are seeing, what you are hearing, what you are smelling, what you are doing with your hands, I mean also your feet, where you are going, that will transform you, that will give sense in your life itself. So the first thing that we have to control is to control touching. So the same thing the monk was giving as advice. He said, you have the choice to do it or not to do it. What you do with your life, life is yours, so you decide. Nobody can force you. If you want to make an impression in this world, when you will be leaving this world, if you will be living happily or with remorse or living with love and know that life will carry on. Maybe you come 1,000 times here, but you have to end this circle, this samsara, this circle of birth and death. People say, yes, I cannot control this mind. It's too difficult. I don't know how to do it. But just take away this I don't know, I can't, and you will be able to do everything. We put ourselves, I can't. But when you say, I can, then everything will disappear and all the doubts and unwanted desire will disappear. Once there was a sadhu in Janakpur. He went around Mithila. And in Mithila, the king was the father of Sita, Janaka. And this sadhu was asking, I want to meet a wise person. I want to meet a realized soul. And so he went around looking, and everybody would say, well, go to the king. The king is a realized one. The sadhu was wondering, but how can a king be someone realized? Because, he's in the middle of the pleasures of the royal seat. And so he was doubting that the king could be a realized person. But as he was asking, everybody was saying, yes, he is a realized person. He went to King Janaka, very much doubting about it. And the king, very happy, welcomed him, and Sadhu said, listen, I have a doubt inside of me. Can you please explain it to me? Everybody, what I was asking, who is the wisest person in this place, everybody was pointing to you. You are the wisest one. You are the realized one. But tell me, how come that the king can be realized? And King Janaka didn't answer. He just said to him, listen, you are for sure tired. You came from a long trip. You have been walking. Please eat something and rest a bit. So he brought him to one of the rooms of the palace and said, look, there is a bed here. Then after eating, lie down a little bit. And as the sadhu was looking around, he saw that on the top of the bed, there was a sword hanging. And then he asked, but what is this sword? And the king said, yes, well, look, this is an old artifact. It has been there since long time. Don't bother about it. You sleep, you rest, and we will see us tomorrow morning. And after this, the king left. After eating, the sadhu tried to sleep. But he was looking to the sword and wondering. He could not sleep because he was thinking perhaps at any moment this sword fall down is hanging on my neck and then finish with me. In the morning, when the king came and asked the sadhu, how did you sleep? How was the night? Could you rest good? a little? And Sadhu says, how could I? With any moment this sword could fall down and kill me. Then Raja Janak said to him, that is the answer of your question. You ask me, how do I do this? Well, I do all my kingly duties, and I know if one moment I will follow this unwanted desire, this doubts, these negative thoughts of my mind, it will be the same as with the sword who could any moment fall down. That's why my mind is always concentrated in the Lord. I know that this world is Maya, and it is like the same, the sword which is by my neck. So constantly my mind is not on this world. My mind is on the Lord Himself. That is how I do my duties. I'm not attached to anything except Him. So there is not a single moment that my mind is not on Him. And it's the same with us. We have our duty. We have to do what the Lord has given us to do. But we should never forget that He is with us every moment. There is not a single moment which He is not present in us. And imagine the joy what He has the moment we think of Him. Imagine the joy. It's the same when you talk to somebody and the person tells you, oh yes, I've been thinking of you. Then it produces a great joy inside. And for Bhagavan, it's the same. When we are thinking of Him, how joyful and excited He gets. And through joyful and excitement, He can give us everything. He can give Himself fully to us. But there is one step that we must do. We must place our mind at His feet. Of course, this mind is not something material that you can say, okay, yes, take it, here it is. We can fill our mind with His name. We can remember Him and remember the love that He has for us. So we can meditate upon His lila, upon His glory, feeding our mind with something positive, keeping our mind healthy, and we will attain Him. Once Sriman Narayana and Mahalakshmi went to visit Lord Indra. Indra was very happy to see the Lord in front of him. And the Lord asked Indra, please, I want to give you a boon. What do you want? You see, Indra is the Lord of the demigods, is the Lord of the heaven. He had also a lot of nice women dancing for him. And when the Lord asked him, what do you want? Indra replied, oh, I would like to have the most beautiful woman in the whole universe. And when God is standing in front of you and you are asking for something which is limited, Narayana looked at Mahalakshmi and, Mahalakshmi is considered that she is the most beautiful woman in the whole universe. So he looked at Mahalakshmi, meaning, you see how strong Maya is. Through that smile, the Lord produced thousands of beautiful women. Because when the mind dwells on limitation, we will get limited happiness. Sriman Narayana said to Indra, look, all these women, you can choose the most beautiful one. And so Indra chose a beautiful woman called Urvashi. And then he went to her, he took her, and he was very happy. When you have something beautiful or nice, what you want to show off, you want to show it. So he went to his guru and he told him, look, I brought you the most beautiful woman in the whole universe. So the guru was not interested and said, okay, so how did you get her? Indra said, well, the Lord came to me and he asked me what I wanted, and I said, I want to have the most beautiful woman. And Brihaspati, the guru, nearly had a heart attack. He answered, what a fool can you be when God is in front of you and you ask for something which is material? Why? What was the reason that Indra was asking something like this? It is the mind. who is enjoying the world? It's the mind. The mind perceives the good and the bad, the duality, but the real observer is the Atma. It is the Atma who observes everything. What observes the Atma is when we finally surrender our mind to the feet of the Lord, so that the Lord becomes the only image in our mind. When somebody attains a state of perfection, one says that person is in samadhi, and this samadhi state is supreme bliss, where one is not touched by anything, and this is who we are in the state of the soul. So when the soul, the Atma, turns toward the longing for Bhagavan, for the longing for God's grace, then the state of supreme bliss awake. It doesn't just awake like that, but it is given by grace. But to reach this state, first we have to understand where to focus our mind. When we focus our mind on something limited, then we will get something limited in return. That becomes our reality, because where we focus our mind, this becomes our reality. That's why the control of the mind is so important. Once there was a fakir who was walking through the bazaar, and he passed a confectioner shop. He noticed some most delicious jalebis, sweet thing. And his mind wanted these jalebis, but the fakir had no money. So he tried to reason with his mind, but he would not give up. So the mind wanted this thing. And at night, when the fakir sat down to meditate, he kept remembering the jalebis. His mind would not be stilled. So after a while, he tried to meditate again, but again the jalebis was reappearing. So at daybreak, the fakir started to work to earn some money. As the day was hot, his employer unpleasant, again his mind was on the jalebis. In those days, jalebis were cheap, so he got 6 pounds of sweets for 1 rupee that he had earned. He started eating and went on until he was satiated. The fakir then told his mind to eat more, but the mind refused and said, no, I am fed up, I'm finished, I don't want, I'm done. And so the fakir said, no, eat more. And he ate more, and finally he vomited. He said to his mind, now eat the vomit also. And by doing this, finally the mind accepted defeat and promised never ask again for jalebi. It is that mind which will free us, and it is also the mind who will bind us. That's why Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad-gītā to Arjuna, surrender your mind to me. He said, do your duty, but let your mind rest upon me. Bhagavan did not say you should not do your duty. No, he said, do your duty, and whatever duty you have, you should do it, and let your mind rest upon me. And that's what we do by chanting, by doing our sadhana, with our prayers, by remembering him. So the same way, when we are in love, we are always remembering our beloved. We keep looking for him, longing for him. It's a blessing that God has given us to be a human being. The dharma of a human being is to love. If we don't love, we cannot call ourselves a human being. So this love we will get to know. So love has many forms. And the moment we give our time to love others, this produces an experience, and in return that will surpass any inclination that we have. The return of love that we feel is much stronger and drunker than the material pleasure that we seek by satisfying any desire of this mind. Jai Gurudev.